time to jump to a backup match? We certainly will, but we turn our attention to these two fantastic players. Berni's going to start things off with an Elvish Mystic.
And that's a big start here. I mean, it's all about mana acceleration, all about mana acceleration.
Berni going to go down to 19, thanks to the Wooded Foothills. And then we'll head to Grace's turn in just a moment. Again, for Robert Berni, making the most out of one of his last tournaments here in the States. He heads to the Philippines in a couple of weeks for work, and he'll be over there for some time. So he said, I've got this tournament, I've got a PTQ next weekend, and then I'm off to the Philippines.
Well, making the most of it. Same as our AC, driving all the way down from Detroit. Got some players here who are making the most of their opportunities.
That's for sure. Grace going to play a Temple of Abandon, so no acceleration yet here for Tannon. Berni with a Nykthos. This is a Courser. Take a look at the top card. We know a land's coming for the next turn thanks to that forest on top. Good start here for Robert.
Nykthos is a big deal too. Again, the two players, their boards just build up. There's very little in the way of removal. You're looking at Polukranos and a couple copies of Crater Claws in Tannon's list. So Nykthos is a huge part of the matchup because there's no way you're going to be short on Devotion.
Voyaging Satyr is the play here for Grace. Now he's found some mana acceleration. Boon Satyr on top of the deck there for Berni. Berni does have a copy of Crater's Claws in hand, though no red mana just yet. Looks like he may play a Courser, and he will. Building towards Devotion. There is a forest. He'll gain 2 life, thanks to both Coursers being in play. Come across here for 2 points of damage. Grace going to go down to 18, and Berni will pass the turn back. Potential for a big turn next turn.
Yeah, a lot of mana in play. The Nykthos represents 5, so we can see something like a big Genesis Hydra could come into play here. Whisperwood Elemental.
See what Grace can put together on his 3rd turn of the game.
And he has access to Polukranos, and Tannon can cast it this turn. Hope that he gets the next turn and can make something happen here. Maybe shoot down the Elvish Mystic, put a big creature into play. But very much at the mercy of whatever Robert offers up this turn.
You speak of Genesis Hydra, there's one on top of Berni's deck here. Won't have access to that this turn, though he could probably cast a large one next turn. Looks like we may have a Nykthos activation here. Again, Grace, all he can do is shrug his shoulders and just say, well, I hope it's not too bad, whatever it is. It's a Whisperwood Elemental. I suppose that's fairly tame, given what this deck can do with a bunch of mana. See the top card of the deck, though? That's an important one, that Wooded Foothills.
Absolutely. That gives Robert access to red mana, meaning the Crater's Claws in hand is now live.
Whisperwood Elemental does manifest the Genesis Hydra. We'll be moving on here in just a moment. Because I imagine Berni doesn't have any attacks, and he doesn't. So we go back Grace's way. Grace will take a draw step. Active Polukranos in play. Shaman to the Great Hunt, the draw step.
This is a distinguishing feature between the two decks.
Courser. Trigger. Take a look. Gets a Temple of a Bandit. There's your trigger. 2 of them, in fact. 1 for Scry, 1 for Courser. So Grace will gain a life. Now I'll take a look at the top card. It's an Elvish Mystic. That one's going to the bottom. New card will be revealed. That's a Nykthos. That's an important one.
It gives Tannon some hope if he can get to next turn with Polukranos and his board intact of being able to make a big play. But that is awfully optimistic.
Wooded Foothills the draw. Mountain on top. So we'll see if Berni opts to just play the mountain or if he wants to go with the fetch land. He's going to survey the board knowing there's a lot he can do here. He can generate a boatload of mana. Looks like he's going to play the mountain. Trigger the Coursers. Now there's a Wooded Foothills on top of the deck.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be closing down our side events for the weekend. We have 6 spots remaining in the last.
Again, does have a copy of Crater's Claws in hand, so he can roast that Polukranos if he'd like to.
And I think that's ultimately what Robert's going to do. I think the question is, what does he do with all the mana that's left over? No, he has Boon Satyr in hand. He can bestow, say, onto one of his Coursers and start attacking with that and the Whisperwood Elemental. There's some lines of play available to him, but I can't imagine he's going to allow Tannon to go into his turn with that Polukranos still in play.
Legacy Premier IQ players, your pairings for round 7 are O.
Well, he's got a lot to think about this turn.
That's short for OP, for Star City Games Organized Play, making them very throughout this weekend. But your pairings for round 7 and standings are posted on the pairings posts. And your pairings
Perhaps it'll just be an attack here with the threat of Boone Sater playing a role.
And again, this is for the Legacy Premier IQ. Your pairings for round
Robert
7
with a
and
lot
your
to think
standings
about.
as of the end of round 6.
Well, if he wants to use the Critters Clause in this turn, he kind of has to commit to everything up front.
Looks like he favors the red zone instead, just with the threat of Boone Sater here.
Possibly, yeah. He might just feel like Pelucranos doesn't do enough here. Tannon has no good blocks, assuming he's not willing to commit Pelucranos into a block. And then Robert gets to keep the Critters Clause in hand and probably set up for a kill next turn.
Yeah. So here are the attacks. Tannon gonna do some math on how much mana can be added here. 7 devotion to green in play right now for Nykthos. So a rather healthy amount.
And Tannon can't say no blocks here, because then the Critters Clause kills him. So now he's forced to put a block somewhere, and that really allows Robert to do some work with the Boone Sater in his hand.
Rocking a hard place here for sure. You see Grace's hand, it's pretty weak.
He's got nothing going on.
Yeah, 3 lands and a Shaman of the Great Hunt. Now Nykthos on top of the deck is nice and all, but it's not a great hand. Grace has decided no blocks. Fear of that Boone Sater. Nykthos activation.
Legacy Premier IQ players welcome to round number 7.
Wants to make sure he has enough mana to maybe get the job done with Fireball here. So again, this is going to be for 7 if he activates Nykthos. 8 with Elvis Mystic, 9. So he can make 9 mana this turn.
Which leaves him 1 short.
Yep. And he's showing Creator's Clause and just saying, I think I'm a little short of killing you. I can wait. These guys pretty good friends, actually, so the banter back and forth, I imagine, is fairly entertaining.
And Tannon with a solid no block there. If Robert's a point short of killing him, the best shot that Tannon has to win this game is just to hope that he goes into his turn and goes crazy with Nykthos somehow.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think it's definitely in the realm of possibility that Berni just says, all right, you know, Creator's Clause, you're Pelucranos, I get to manifest. Pretty much no chance you come back from this board, especially because your top card is Nykthos. Nykthos isn't even generating mana. You know, so what's the worst that you can really do? And we know Grace's hand is 3 lands and a copy of Shaman of the Great Hunt, so it's actually really not much at all. But of course, we're working with some very good information here.
Yeah, it's one of those spots where Robert has to figure out what's the way that I could possibly lose this game and then play around that accordingly.
And we've watched Berni play quite a bit this weekend. He's done a really nice job of navigating this deck.
Yes.
He's taken some lines that you and I thought were unconventional and actually ended up being absolutely correct. So it's not as straightforward, as maybe it may seem with this Creator's Clause. And it looks like he's just going to go upstairs with this manifest, put Grace down to 1, and dare him to do his worst on his turn. Top card of the deck for Berni here, by the way, Whisperwood Elemental. That'll be his draw step next turn. Manifested a copy of Wooded Foothills. Again, Grace going to draw his copy of Nykthos. Wooded Foothills is on top of the deck.
And Tannon needs to put that into play to have any hope of containing Robert's board, because now basically everything is lethal. Three blockers against 5 lethal creatures. But Pelucranos can clean up some of the manifest tokens pretty easily. The question then is, what's the long-term play? Because we know Tannon's draw step next turn is going to be a land. Shaman of the Great Hunt, the only spell in his hand, not much help here, just a blocker.
Attention Magic players, this is a last call for today's side events. We have 1 spot left for a booster. Never mind, booster draft is full. We have 3 spots.
Looks like a little
left
Nykthos
in
activation
today's
here.
standard winner box, and we do
5
have
green.
7 spots in the legacy winner box. If we get a
Grace is trying to figure out if there's some way he can come back in this game. I find it rather unlikely, but it's definitely worth trying to figure out.
And I don't even know if Tannon can commit to this turn to using the Voyaging Satyr because it means he's down a blocker.
Yeah, and he's just going to concede the game knowing that there's no way he can get out of this situation. Robert Berni is going to win game number 1 here over Tannon Grace. Green-Red Devotion up a game over Green-Red Devotion. Being on the play certainly helps.
Yeah, I mean, Robert was able to curve out there. Tannon had some stuff going on there, but was on the back foot the whole time. No way to break serve, and just got overpowered.
Berni had the better payoff cards there, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Sideboard time. We'll start with Grace. He's on your right. He's got 3 Barber's Purse, an Arbor Colossus. Nylea's Disciple, 2 of those. 2 Reclamation Sages, 2 Outpost Siege as well. You throw in some Destined Tactics, Wild Slashes, and Arc Lightnings. He's got some nice options here.
Some removal to interact with some of the early mana creatures in Wild Slash and Arc Lightning. Even though there really aren't that much in the way of flying in the matchup, I think Arbor Colossus is still pretty big and beefy, worth bringing in. This is Destined Tactics, perhaps the best card in the matchup. It gives Tannon some hope of being able to get some mana creatures in play and use tactics to take care of all of Robert's mana creatures, and then Tannon can go on and win the game from there.
On Robert Berni's side, 2 Arbor Colossus, 2 Genesis Hydra, 3 Nylea's Disciple, 2 Reclamation Sage, 2 Destined Tactics, a Xenagos, God of Revels, and 3 copies of Nissa Worldwaker.
About the same deal here. You want the big stuff in Arbor Colossus and Genesis Hydra, and you definitely want your copies of Destined Tactics as well for the same reasons that Tannon wants it. When the board gets clogged up with mana creatures, tactics can be extremely powerful.
And these players will sideboard and get ready for game number 2. Again, they've already played each other once in the tournament, so they know what each other's bringing to the table. Also pretty good friends. They had dinner on Friday along with us, so no real surprises here. We'll see if Tannon can actually tie things up, maybe take this match again. But we will briefly talk about February game night. We're halfway through the month, so not a lot of time left to acquire old mittens here.
Yep, this is the Wolf token. It's available with the February kit, which comes with tokens and pins to give out whichever day of the week you happen to run. Game night, sanctioned, unsanctioned, any format you want. Just get the players in your store for some fun and friendly magic. If you want to get signed up for the March kit, head over to StarCityGames.com/game night or contact your Star City Games organized play representative.
Don't know what there's going to be for March, but I'm excited. But you got a couple weeks left to get home. I like boots better than mittens. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Either works, really.
Mittens isn't bad.
No.
But old Bootsy?
Boots. I have a lot of names for the animal tokens rolling down the pipeline. Don't worry.
Very clever ones, I'm sure.
No, not really.
I believe that Mittens is a clever name.
That's been done before.
But I'm not very good at naming things, so
Okay.
that's I don't know if that's a skill.
I guess
Probably
it is.
technically a skill.
Some form of creative expression.
Not a skill that I have, though. Not really a skill I have. It's too bad. To be fair, not really a skill I want.
Why not? You're not an animal guy?
Yet. I think at some point in my life I will have a dog.
Animals are pretty sweet. They are pretty awesome.
Here's the thing, I think at this point in my life it's irresponsible to have an animal.
That's definitely true. I feel like I travel too much to even have a cat, which
Yeah.
is saying a lot. So
Because what would I have to put it in some place every weekend, right? Or have one of my friends look over it every time I'm gone?
Yep. Something like that.
Yeah, I'm gone Friday and Monday. I'm not even there.
Yep. A pet is not a possession, it's a companion.
Yeah.
And it's important to treat them well. So I think I agree with you. You could have a fish, but a fish doesn't count as a pet.
That's a little harsh.
They don't even know who you are, man. That's my threshold is, does the pet recognize you? Sorry, I should clarify. Does the pet recognize you as something other than food? Steaks are also disqualified for the same reason.
So just fish are just out. I had fish when I was a kid.
A fish is much closer to a thing that you own than it is to a pet.
So it's more of like a pet rock. than anything.
It's closer to a pet rock than it is a cat.
I suppose that's true. Wow, there's some fish trauma I need to know about here?
No, it just doesn't count. Like, it doesn't recognize you. There's no companionship. It has no bond with you. It's swimming around this little bowl. Thankfully for you, it has a short enough memory that it doesn't get horribly depressed swimming around in the same small bowl all day long. Occasionally you come over and feed it. It has no idea what's going on. There's just food raining down from the heavens. That's not a pet.
That sounds like a great life. Imagine if food was just raining down when you were at home.
I'm not saying the fish is unhappy. The fish is happy because, well, the fish is whatever a fish is because it has no emotions. But it's not a pet the same way that a cat is a pet.
I understand. So you're pro dog. Does a bird count?
Sort of. Some of them definitely can recognize their owners and like kind of hang around.
Okay. So turtle?
I don't know turtles well enough to know if they actually know what's going on. They probably do. They're probably smart enough.
They're kind of mean, though.
Yeah, they are pretty mean. If your pet is basically conspiring to eat you, it also doesn't count as a pet.
Well, yeah, I don't want a snake.
Yeah, snakes are just waiting for you to moronically leave their door open while you go to sleep, and they can just tee off. That's not a pet either.
Game number 2 going to be underway here in just a moment between Tannon Grace and Robert Berni. Hopefully there are no snakes involved in this game, as Tannon will take a mulligan.
Tannon's got Rattleclaw Mystic. I think that's a snake.
I think it's a mystic. I think it's a human mystic.
It's a human mystic?
I'm fairly sure it's not a snake.
They've made snake shamans before. Coiling Oracle, I think, is a snake shaman.
Yes, that also happened during Kamigawa Block at one point as well. However,
perhaps a less tight time for the flavor team. Coiling Oracle, I thought, was a replica.
it has 3. It has 3 things on it.
Yeah, it also has some sort of job too, right?
Yes.
Snake shaman accountant or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You have nailed it yet again, as Bernie's also taking a mulligan here.
What is it? What's the creature type?
I am going to confirm for you right now.
Okay.
Thankfully for Twitter, it is a snake elf druid, not
Snake
an
elf.
accountant.
Snake elf druid.
Yeah.
Equally as ridiculous, so.
Yeah, the leader of the Sultai is a snake.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Sidisi.
Yes, not a. I don't think Sidisi is an accountant. Maybe more of a necromancer. For those of you who want, a human shaman is Rattleclaw Mystic.
Okay.
Yes. No snakes involved.
Has the word rattle in it? I don't know. I thought it.
You know, you can have the words rattle in it and not involving a snake.
I'm just saying.
You know, that's possible.
If that turned out that it was actually a snake, you wouldn't be blown away. You wouldn't be that surprised.
I'd be a little surprised. Looks like a human in the picture. Looks like a human. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
I'm wrong a lot. I get chastised a lot for it by you, Booth.
No, you're definitely right. And you're, fortunately equipped with the power of the internet to confirm this. I'm just saying, it wouldn't be that big of a surprise. That's all.
Are you okay very quickly? We're going to finish our pet discussion with a lizard.
The store that I used to work with had pet iguanas, and those things suck. I mean, they do not recognize who you are. Let's get that out of the way. And they are pretty violent.
All right, I'm not going to get one of those either.
That's not a companion. The owner of the only game in town had these pet iguanas and had them at the store. It was her one indulgence was this cage for these iguanas. And those things are horrible.
Just remember, if you'd like a pet out there, a dog or a cat, pretty much your only option. Maybe a bird.
Bird's not bad.
My brother, when I was growing up, this is fun. A guinea pig.
Guinea pig's okay. They're at least cute and harmless.
Okay.
They sort of passed, sort of failed the is this a companion test. But they're okay.
My brother had a rat.
Rats are pretty bad.
Probably not a great idea by my parents there.
Right.
Not sure why they would say yes to that.
But
I can't rent a video game at Blockbuster this weekend. Sure.
Life is full of arbitrary decrees.
Not quite fair at all, really.
Right. People in power making rules seemingly at random. It's good that your parents prepared for you for your adulthood because that's all that's going on.
That's what they were doing.
Yep.
That's what they're doing. Thank you. Mom and Dad, if you're listening, thank you.
Yep.
I was looking at everything wrong. The rat was okay, but Mega Man 6 was not. Bernie's on 5 cards. Now, when we watched Bernie play against Grace earlier, Tannon mulliganed to 5, and he won pretty easily.
These decks don't interact. So your hand of mana acceleration is a big thing, even on 5 cards. That's going to be good to go. We know this because Tannon was able to do it earlier, as you mentioned.
Tannon starts things off with an Elvish Mystic very quickly. He has a Voyaging Satyr, another Elvish Mystic. He is out of the gates real fast here. Bernie just has a forest. He'll play a second land that's a forest. There's a copy of Voyaging Satyr and pass the turn back. Grace is looking to knock the walls down on this game real quick.
Yep. I mean, welcome to the matchup, right? These two decks are ships passing in the night. So these openings, the other player has no response to this. They just have to just eat it.
Berni will shuffle the deck here from the Windswept Teeth. A couple updates for you guys. Travis Wiggins, a number 8 overall seed, player from Detroit, Michigan, who drove down here to do battle with SCGHOU Tokens. It's up a game here over Jason Blackmore, who is playing red-white aggro. Blackmore, number 1 overall seed, has the option to play first throughout the top 8, has his back against the wall for maybe the first time all tournament. Other matchup are 3 versus 6. Number 6 overall seed Todd Stevens with SCGHOU Tokens. Up a game over Steven Garcia playing blue-white control. So SCGHOU Tokens, nice little performance here so far.
Still, in my opinion, if you're looking at raw power level, Standard's best deck. I know there's metagame considerations, but I think if you're looking at what deck most consistently does the most powerful stuff the fastest, has to be SCGHOU Tokens.
Berni just played a Wooded Foothills and passed the turn back. Grace is untapped with his copy of Blue Chronos, so this could be a pretty fast one here.
Right. I mean, this might be a spot where Robert is trying to test in tactics. Oh, wait, 1 mana creature on the way out for his Voyaging Satyr, but this is going to be a rough turn for Robert, and it's going to be very, very hard for him to claw his way back into the game.
There's a Courser. We'll see if there'll be a response here by Berni. This Courser is not yet resolved yet. Looks like there's something going on. Let's see what the Grand Prix Phoenix champion is up to here.
I feel like this is going to be a test in tactics.
Yeah.
Just to try to get a little something on the way out. Because this deck is all creatures and sorceries. It's not like it's, you know, playing with a bunch of tricks. So if Robert passed on his 3rd turn, there's not a lot it can be.
And Tannon says, all right, my friend, make your move if you're going to make one. There's tactics.
Kirby Jennings, if you are in the room, please report to the main event stage. Kirby Jennings to the main event stage, please.
Looks like there's going to be a bit of an untap here. Yep, there's be a Plukernos activation, so not going to let that happen.
Yep.
And then it goes to the top card. We see from Courser, Plukernos going to come into the red zone. Berni basically forcing this activation now. So Plukernos, yes, it's a 7-power creature, but that's the worst that it can do.
Yeah, but that's going to be bad enough here because Robert's almost in chump blocking mode already.
Going down to 12 here. See what land he wants to search up. I'd imagine the mountain turned that part of his deck on. So there is the mountain from Portal 3 Kingdoms.
Mm-hmm. The predecessor to Champions of Kamigawa block.
Yes. And there's Plukernos. Back to Grace we go. We know he's drawing Xenagos. Top card of the deck is a Forest. So Forest will come into play. Trigger the Courser, a little bit of life again. He'll have to turn over the top card of his deck here. There's another Xenagos. Problem here for Grace, no red mana.
Though probably not a big deal. You get the feeling that Tannon may be able to just attack and then attack again to win the game.
Yeah, Berni's already pretty low. Plukernos can go into the red zone just like it is right now. The question is, does he want to attack with other creatures? It seems like the answer is no.
Yeah, you knock Robert down, assuming that Robert would go ahead and block the Courser. You get him down to 2. And I guess you don't have another 2-power creature left in play. You just have a bunch of 1-power creatures, so probably best to hold off for one more turn.
Make the Alpha Strike next turn, potentially.
Yeah.
Grace has the opportunity to add quite a decent chunk of mana here. He's going to play a replacement Plukernos. A little bit surprising. Looks like he's got a Monstrosity activation on the way.
He would have to have a lot of mana for that.
Yeah.
He would need 15 mana total?
To kill Polukranos, you would need a lot of mana. I think, this is a play of play Polukranos, activate Polukranos, make it a little bit larger past the turn back.
I don't know how much merit there is to that, just because the Polukranos that was a 7/7 is lethal regardless. It protects Polukranos against, I guess, Robert's Polukranos, but it seems like Robert's so short on mana that that's not going to be a consideration.
Xenagos the draw, Courser on top. Grace's hand right now, 2 copies of Xenagos. Can he attack with everything to get the job done here? I think the answer is yes, but this is a safer one.
Yeah. I mean, Robert has to block the Polukranos.
Yep. Has to block Polukranos, has the ability to activate Monstrosity once to kill an Elvish Mystic. So he would go down to 1 this turn. Though there are some things that Grace will consider here before making an attack with everyone, but now he's coming in with everybody to the red zone. There's your block. Here's your Monstrosity activation. Polukranos will die, of course. The other Polukranos will win in battle on Grace's side. Berni will draw a card. It's another copy of Wishwood Elemental. He'll pick up his 4 lands, and we'll get ready for a third game here as Tannon Grace is able to tie things up.
Yeah, I think that Tannon was under the impression that he was going to be able to play the second Polukranos and take care of Roberts. That wasn't the case, but Tannon had such an edge on the table that it didn't matter.
So there are the sideboards that are available. Anything you think changes here on the player of the draw, or just hope you get your best draw?
I think it's just hope you get your best draw. I mean, Arc Lightning becomes a little less appealing on the draw than on the play, but I don't think there's a lot of sideboarding to be done here. And Tannon and Robert aren't even really looking at their sideboard. They're just shuffling for game 3.
Well, both these players will be ready for game number 3. We will talk about our IQs here that are involved in the Open Series. We've got 2 Premier IQs taking place right now. We got a Legacy one and a Modern one going on, plenty during the week, depending on where you live, but you can also get them in your own store if you'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. These are not just something that you can find on the Open Series. You can bring these to your local stores. We have numerous tiers of IQs available for players who are just looking for more local organized play, a path to the Invitational, or for a lot of players last year, a way to get to the Players' Championship. All of our kits include exclusive play mats, dice bags, pins, and vouchers. Some of this content is for participation. Some of this content is for top 8s, and you can head over to StarCityGames.com for more information or contact your Star City Games organized play representative.
IQs are the way that many a player got to the Players' Championship last year. Think of Jim Davis, think of Kevin Jones, think of Ross Merriam as well. But it's also just a great way to play some Magic, too. As we have a quick update for you guys, as Steven Garcia with his blue-eye control deck has tied it up against Todd Stevens. So Garcia, our number 3 overall seed. Stevens, our number 6 overall seed, will play a third game. The winner of that match will play either Matthew Way playing red-green aggro, or Trent Avera playing Abzan midrange. No update on that match just yet, but again, when we have it, we'll let you guys know.
Steven Garcia on a bit of a tear here, our Missouri regional champion last week, and now in the top 8 of the Houston Open.
Just dealing.
Just dealing right now. Not a player who I knew of before this, but very good set of weekends here. Playing blue-white control.
Jim Davis probably over his shoulder.
Perhaps.
Interested observer.
I actually get the impression that Jim left a while ago. Could be wrong.
Not a great weekend for Jim.
Nope. 3 and 4 matches played in the Standard Open, and then a 1-3 drop in the IQ.
But you can't win them all.
You cannot, no.
As the very wise Ben Rubin once said.
Win some, lose most.
That's true. That's very true. Jason Blackmore tied things up against Travis Wiggins. Blackmore, red-white aggro, number 1 overall seed. Wiggins, number 8 overall seed, playing SCGHOU tokens. So, yeah, some game 3 is happening. Game 3 happening in front of us, too, in just a moment between Grace and Berni. And now we have our first official result. Matt Way with red-green aggro takes care of Trent Avera playing Abzan mid-range. 2-1. So number 7 overall seed with red-green aggro, he's through to the semifinals to play either blue-white control or SCGHOU tokens.
I think a bit of an upset there.
I think so.
I was on the Abzan mid-range side of that matchup.
These 2-color decks looking pretty good.
Yep, a lot of it. A lot of 2 colors. Red, green, red, green. Red, green again. Blue, white.
Red, white.
Red, white. Yeah, I mean, that's 5 of the top 8. And then we had an Abzan deck.
2 SCGHOU tokens.
2 SCGHOU tokens, yep.
Berni gonna take a mulligan, so will Grace.
Got a mulligan aggressively in this matchup. If we've seen anything so far, it's people die with spells in their hand in this matchup.
Happens a lot.
So you got to look for specific cards. Much closer to a matchup Modern or Legacy than Standard. Insofar, it's not just about, okay, some lands and some spells. You need specific tools to compete.
Patrick, this will surprise you here, but some people have chimed in on Twitter about your pet assessment.
Not surprised.
Yeah. Jeff,
Not particularly concerned either.
Jeff Hoagland says that rats actually make very good pets.
Okay.
I would argue that Super Mario 64 makes a better pet.
It's not a pet.
If my parents were nice, I could have had video games when I was a kid. There's some people who are in favor of bunnies.
Bunnies are sweet. My sister's oldest child, my oldest niece, she raises rabbits for 4-H, and they seem pretty friendly. They're cool. Passed my test.
And Shamanica Green says that I've had rats and birds. They make great pets. Many parrots as smart as children. Rats basically small dogs. I think that he's implying that children are stupid.
Parrots are actually pretty sharp.
Are they?
Yeah, they're sharp.
Okay.
They're also really annoying. They are super chatty.
What's the line on that you draw as far as what a pet bird it can be?
What do you mean?
Well, can I get a toucan? Is that in play?
I don't know Washington state law that well.
Yeah, can I seagull?
I don't think you can domesticate a seagull.
Just curious. I don't know the rules. Apparently, I've been informed that domesticating a seagull is illegal. I kind of want a toucan. You just don't see those very much.
Is this just because you have fond memories as a child of Toucan Sam, the Fruit Loops cartoon endorser?
Maybe yes, maybe no.
Yeah.
That's just good marketing.
Right.
That's what that is.
Toucan Sam was pretty annoying too. It is based on fact.
I think parrots are a little annoying.
They are. You had to put like a blanket over their cage to make it seem like it's nighttime, or else they will just talk forever. They will just shout at you constantly. It is like having a child in that respect. All right, it's nighttime. You have to go to bed.
Do I?
I cannot listen to you repeat your own name yet again.
The only parrot that I have an interest in as a pet would be Squawks the parrot.
What's Squawks?
Donkey Kong.
Okay.
Donkey Kong Country. I believe he throws some things at people for you. He's a teammate.
Okay.
And spits coconuts, apparently.
Based on, again, science.
Correct. Others I wouldn't have a ton of interest in. I think I would actually be fine with all of the pets from the Donkey Kong Country series, even the rhinoceros.
I think those are pretty hard to domesticate too.
Like, I could see a baby rhino being okay. Both these players just bulking like crazy.
Down to 4.
Yeah, this is really something.
You can still see a fast kill even on 4 cards.
No, absolutely. But both these players are not keeping touchy hands and saying, look, I have to mulligan to my good stuff. Mm-hmm. And neither of them have found their good stuff yet.
Did you grow up with animals?
Brother had a rat and a turtle.
Okay.
I had fish, named after the Street Fighter 2 characters.
Okay.
They didn't live for very long. I fed Balrog way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, not smart. No cats, no dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Neighbors down the streets had those things. And I was under the impression, because my neighbor 2 doors down from me babysat me, they had a dog named Sassy, and they would just let it out.
Yep.
And it would just go to the bathroom and come back, and I was under the impression that that's all you had to do if you had a dog. Which is not even remotely true.
Right. You gotta hang out with that thing.
Yeah, not even close to true. So
Just
when
starts peeing on your stuff otherwise.
as I found out during college,
Yep.
when my roommate had a greyhound.
Those dogs especially, they need to get out and run.
Yeah, it was a rescue greyhound, and I remember the one day that I left my bedroom door slightly open. It came into the bedroom. My box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch was destroyed, as was most of the furniture in our apartment.
Right. Well, it's the dog's stuff.
The greyhound got on a sugar high and went to town.
That's great.
It went to town. The couch was destroyed. I got a stern talking to about leaving my door open, too, after that.
Not the dog's fault. Gotta be a responsible pet owner. Animal's only as good as its companion.
It wasn't my dog. My roommate's dog.
You're part of it. And you're hanging out there, you know?
I lived there. I wasn't hanging out. I lived there. Keep that dog out of my room. Here's an Elvish Mystic. Tannon, how lucky.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. Berni probably has a one-lander, and Tannon is furious.
Tannon's hand's not bad.
That's not terrible, no. Nick, that was a good draw.
3 lands, plus a Xenagos and a Courser you can cast.
One of them's a temple, too.
Yeah, this is a real hand.
Gonna give this scry some thought here. Top card goes to the bottom, going back Berni's way. In for one comes Robert. There's a forest. And nothing to play, so we'll go back Grace's way. Genesis Hydra with a draw. A Nykthos and a pass over to Berni, who draws a red card. It's a Crater's Claws, and he has to just pass the turn back. Grace with a forest. Here comes a Courser. And it's in there. Top card, a Xenagos. Berni will draw a Genesis Hydra. All you can do is pass the turn back over to Grace, who draws his Xenagos. Top card is a Wild Slash. This game might be over real soon.
I mean, this could actually be Xenagos beatdowns, which we rarely see in the mirror. Sometimes Xenagos is in there to generate tokens and chump block, mostly for our mana power. But this game, cranking out a sea of 2/2s could be very powerful, especially if Robert has no play next turn, and Tannon can just Wild Slash the Elvish Mystic away.
There is Xenagos. Here is a Satyr token. I think it's beat down a clock. Here we go. Berni's going to go down to 15. Take a draw step. It's a forest.
All right, well, Robert gets to play on there. If he misses a land drop that turn, I think he's done.
I think it's over, yeah. Wild Slash will take care of the Elvish Mystic, and the game would probably be over. As it is, Wild Slash is the draw step. Elvish Mystic's on top of the deck here for Grace. Though Robert's still got some real work to do because Grace can start generating mana with his Xenagos and maybe cast a Genesis Hydra. So a lot to think about here if you're Grace.
Well, I think that Tannon definitely wants to kill the elf this turn, so that takes care of one of the mana. And then how good is it to be Genesis Hydrating for 3 after the fact? Not great.
There's Wild Slash. Elevators going up.
Round 7, your final round. You have 50 minutes, you may begin.
It's a Hydra for 3. There's an Elvish Mystic, Rattleclaw Mystic, and a Mountain. Rattleclaw, perhaps? Yes. And it's time to shuffle the deck. Getting a shuffle here on Courser is probably pretty good.
Though a little bit, I mean, that's a little bit of an odd play there from Tannon. I suppose it's fine, but the most likely scenario there is that he gets an Elvish Mystic as the trigger off Genesis Hydra, which allows Robert to very naturally curve into, all right, activate Pelucranos for 1, get rid of your mana creature. Now I can start threatening your Planeswalker. Maybe Tannon doesn't care that much about Robert expending resources to get to Xenagos because the last card in Tannon's hand is another copy.
Nykthos to draw here for Berni. I think Berni's on defense now.
Yeah. Tannon does have the luxury of basically waiting, producing a bunch of tokens with Xenagos, and if he happens to find one of his big plays, can generate mana with Xenagos and do something awesome.
Yep.
And in the meantime, Robert probably just has to fight for 1 with Pelucranos this turn and hang back on D.
And keep peeling lands.
Yeah.
There's Genesis Hydra for 2. We have a winner.
All right.
That's pretty insane hit.
I mean, he had to go for it.
Yeah.
It's a risky play, but what else is he going to do?
Yeah, that hit is fantastic because not only is that like an 0-3 against this, what is likely to be a swarm of 2/2s, but also it's red mana.
Yep, and the devotion count's real high now.
Yeah, that's a pretty insane hit there by Berni.
I like the risky play, though. What, he's got to roll the dice at this point. He's way behind on the board. Things are not getting better. And now he has a shot to come back if Tannon misses.
Tannon is forced to draw step. Elvish Mystic will be the draw step next turn. That's about as close to a whiff as it's going to get. Grace will play that land, trigger the Courser, gain a life. But he's in some trouble right now. Well, Xenagos is all well and good. Maybe the elevator keeps going up on that. We'll see. But now Grace has got some serious thinking to do.
For sure. But there's no good attacks. And the only thing that he can really choose between is, you know, do I hold back with the Xenagos, the second copy in my hand, or do I play it this turn while my mana's freed up and get an extra Satyr? I think he should probably just sit on the Xenagos, just keep creating some Satyrs here. Because the extra 2/2 is not worth very much, as Robert's board is pretty developed to block.
And that's what he's going to do. Access to 7 mana this turn for Berni. Nykthos can make 5 green. And Berni knows the card in Grace's hand is a Xenagos. Saw it from the Courser.
You see Critter's Claws in hand. Right now, Robert just wants to hold the fort for long enough to get Tannon into range.
Game is certainly taking a turn. There's Anissa. This might force Grace's hand a little bit here. Looks like Berni's going to make a 4/4. That's 2 more green devotion, mind you. Elvish Mystic to draw top card. Okay.
All right, this might compel Robert to make a move.
Yep.
Because next turn could be huge for Tannon.
Mystic's coming down. Satyr token's coming in. And now it's time for Berni to make a decision. He'll draw a card. It's a forest. Now, we can't forget that this is untap ability. We don't see it happen often. But that can be even more mana here for Robert. Now he's going to go in the tank. Now, don't forget, red mana available thanks to Sylvan Caryatid. The fortunate hit with the Genesis Hydra means he has red mana to cast the Crater's Claws.
I think if Robert can't find a kill this turn, he needs to do as much as possible to contain Tannon's devotion. Ideally, he would also get the Xenagos off the table because Xenagos represents a lot of mana. Failing that, he just needs to kill as much mana and as many creatures as possible to prevent this Genesis Hydra from doing a bunch of damage next turn.
And perhaps the goal is to kill as much mana and as much devotion off the table so the Genesis Hydra isn't a big one, because you got to get some creatures off the board to slow down Nykthos, and try your best to slow down Xenagos too.
Yep.
There's a Caryatid. And Blue Crow's going to do some real nice work here. Eight devotion in play. He can make 13 mana this turn if he'd like to. 8 devotion with the Nykthos. Untap 4 forest. That's 12. Active Caryatid is 13. That'd be a fight for 6.
It's short of lethal.
6 isn't so bad. Could kill Genesis Hydra, Rattleclaw Mystic, and Elvish Mystic. Or kill Courser, Elvish Mystic, and Rattleclaw Mystic. Doesn't seem like a bad turn. Slow the devotion down a little bit. Slow the Courser down.
And trying to make something big enough that perhaps Tannon's forced to start chump blocking as well.
Yeah, I suppose he can start coming into the red zone here if he's feeling it. There's some mana. Nykthos gonna tick up. Gonna untap some mana. Don't see that mode used all that often.
It's come up a lot for these green devotion decks.
Yes, it has. So Berni's adding a whole bunch of mana. Feels like a Pelucranos fight. Now it's time to decide what it's going to be to. Looks like it's going to be a Courser. That one and that one. So it just wants to slow down the mana for the Genesis Hydra.
Mm-hmm. Get rid of either mana creatures or sources of devotion.
Yep. I think that's smart. He's really ratcheted down what Nykthos is able to do. And again, everyone knows that Tannon's card is Xenagos. So we'll see just how good this Genesis Hydra is going to be, because the Xenagos that's in play can, of course, tick up, generate 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana, so it could be for 7, which is still pretty healthy. Let's not get ourselves wrong here. And I don't think that Grace has a better play, so for Berni, you cross your fingers a little bit here. Now, 7 is actually kind of nice because that doesn't work Ugin into the equation. Let's take a look, SCGHOU. Whisperwood Elemental looks like it may be the best of the bunch, which is still pretty good.
Though now with Robert playing towards Crater's Claws, you know, Tannon needs to do something about what's going on the board here, because he's going to get hit very soon. And in fact, the point from the mana confluence he just took might push him into lethal.
Yeah, with Ferocious, I think he might be dead to
Yeah,
Fireball.
I'm counting 16 available mana on Robert's side, plus, of course, Ferocious is enabled. So that should be for exact lethal. So we'll find out.
Yeah, we might see some attacks here, for example. Who knows?
Evan McAleer.
It's certainly something to think about.
And Adam Yetter, please come up to the stage. Once again, David Bruno.
I don't think it's feasible for Tannon to kill the Nissa this turn. And Robert can always block in such a way to prevent any inroads being made on his board. And you can see Robert's doing the same count right now.
And that is going to do it right there. The Crater's Claws does it again. We've watched it be lethal so many times. You can put another one on the board there for Robert Berni. Wins this match here over Tannon Grace, 2-1. Both players taking a ton of mulligans there in the third game, and it looked like Tannon was going to run away with that, but Berni taking the risk with a Genesis Hydra, and he got there.
Real gutsy use of his Genesis Hydra there. Understood that he had to get